Well, hey everybody, this is Chris DiFurio with Keys to the Shop. Welcome to another edition of Shift Break. Today's episode is brought to you by the Ground Control Cyclops Brewer from Voga Coffee. This brewer is absolutely amazing. Taking batch brew to the next level is just one of the things it does. It uses SCA award-winning technology to draw out flavors from your coffee that you didn't even think were there. It's amazing, and the kind of control that you have over it, which is why they call it ground control, is unprecedented. Not only is this brewer leveling up what we can expect from batch brew coffee, but it also supplies you with a lot of versatility because it can also make tea, batch iced lattes, batch cold brew. It's really easy to train your staff on, beautiful to look at, and again, levels up your quality and the versatility. So to me, this is something that you absolutely need to check out if quality, versatility, and offering your customers the absolute best that you possibly can is something that you want to do in your cafe. To find out more information about getting a ground control in your store, go to their website. That is groundcontrol.coffee. This episode is also brought to you by La Marzocco, who's been making espresso machines by hand in Florence, Italy since 1927. La Marzocco has always been about serving the specialty coffee retail community, always innovating, listening to their customers, and creating equipment that helps you be successful as a coffee entrepreneur. One of the machines that really highlights that is their new KB90 machine. The KB90 introduced straight-in portafilters for improved speed and ergonomics, auto flush capabilities for increased cleanliness and speed, plus it has built-in scales that improve consistency and flow. And that's just one example of the amazing equipment they have. You know, when you go to LaMarzoccoUSA.com, you can download their whole product collection to see which machine is right for your cafe. Cafes have been trusting La Marzocco with the heart of their business, the espresso machine, for a very long time. La Marzocco USA is available to help coffee entrepreneurs get the best equipment for their shops. All you need to do is contact one of their sales directors by emailing info@lamarzoccoUSA.com. Okay, everybody, today on Shift Break, I want to talk to you about when experience becomes a liability. We've talked a little bit about experience, whether or not you should hire experienced baristas or inexperienced baristas. And of course, I think it depends on the person. We like to have a formula in mind. This is why we buy books that talk about the habits of the rich and famous, as if we brush our teeth a certain way, then we're going to become rich just like them, or if we wake up at 4:30 in the morning and take an ice bath, we're going to become, physically fit. When in fact, we're just going to have clean teeth and be really cold, and maybe not rich. But my point is here that we like to find out what the rules are. Always hire inexperienced people because then you don't have to untrain them, or always hire experienced people because then you don't have to train them. Both, of course, are silly and not great ideas. It depends on the person. You hire for aptitude and potential and personality, work ethic. And of course, I think you hire for values. You hire somebody who has an experience actually living out the values of your store, your business. Your value might be integrity, and they can show integrity working at a lumber yard just as much as they can do that making a cappuccino. You just have to find out how, and then you know that you've got kind of a good candidate on your hands. What I want to talk today about, though, is experience itself and how you can see experience being a liability. And this might even be something that you can cut off as a possibility for yourself so that you, as an experienced professional, don't become a liability for somebody else. So let's talk first about if you're trying to bring somebody on who has experience, but you're starting to get concerned. Let's talk about what you should look for that would make anybody concerned, or should you make you concerned. I think the first thing is that they are resistant to your training. This is the classic reason why we don't tend to want to hire somebody with a lot of experience. At least that's what I hear a lot, is they're going to have these old habits and they're going to just do them. Okay. Well, having old habits that are hard to, train out is one thing. Having old habits that you refuse to change is quite another. So if they're being obstinate, stubborn, they think they're right, basically they hear you saying, here's how I want us to make cappuccinos, and because maybe they were a competition barista, they think, oh, well, isn't that cute? Bless your heart. Okay, well, sure, wink, wink. And then they start talking to the baristas that they're working with about all these different techniques that they're learning and how a world barista champion once told them that they had good espresso. And I'm exaggerating a little bit here, but this is a pride issue, and it's found mostly in young baristas that have accomplished some level of either fame or worked for a big name coffee house, but there's a combination of their personal lack of maturity and their professional lack of experience outside of getting accolades, sometimes too quickly. Now, I had this happen with me, and I've been that barista before where I was more arrogant than I should have been because I was a latte art champion. Wow, I could pour, at the time, 3 Rosettas in 1 cup was unheard of. And when I showed people that, it was like they lost their minds. Today, it wouldn't even make it past the first round of Coffee Fast latte art, maybe not even past the application process. But back then, it was really a big deal. And so when you do something that's an accomplishment, like work for a big name or have a certification to your name, sometimes these things go to your head. And that's what you want to look out for. People who are way into themselves, they're way into their accomplishments, and they're not really curious about you and how you do things and making you successful. And of course, we know if you make somebody else successful, it looks better for you, and it works out better for you in the end anyway. So experience becomes a liability when it leads to a misplaced sense of arrogance and pride, and it causes people to ignore the policies and procedures and think that they can just call an audible and make whatever is in front of them their own. And what happens then is, because they are just resistant to doing things the way that this company wants them to be done, they start accusing the company of not wanting to do good, not wanting to be excellent. And so in their next interview, they say, well, I worked for a company, but they never wanted to hear my ideas, and they always wanted to just do things the way they were done, and I just needed to grow more, and they make themselves out to be the martyr, when all along the way, they were actually the one who was immature in the process. And you don't want to be that person. Now, speaking to you as if you are that one, not hiring and looking out for that, but the one who could be that person. We should have enough self-awareness to know whether we are that person or not, or are we in danger of becoming that person? And this further perpetuates this idea. Owners are often portrayed as people stuck in the past. They don't want to, make advances in your techniques. And it's always like the innovative and valiant baristas who are the ones trying to push things forward, when actually the whole story might be a little bit more nuanced and complicated. In my experience, there's always another side of the story, which is, yeah, they wanted to do some cool stuff, but they weren't even really cleaning the bathrooms well. They weren't even giving the way that we make coffee a chance. They were coming in hot and heavy with the OCD distributor and other tools and techniques, and they were just, constantly trying to do crazy latte art and using the bar like their own personal home bar. But let me say this about experience. When it becomes a liability is when you view experience itself as completely a liability for everybody. It's these individuals who are the arrogant baristas that can't be taught anything and always want to teach, that ruin it for the other experienced baristas who do want to be taught, who do want to work in a place, earn trust, serve well, and would be given responsibility and influence in an organization. But owners a lot of times have been burned by the arrogance of some experienced baristas. So there's a lot of things to consider when you're looking at the idea of experience. First, don't become that person who can't be taught and always wants to teach. And then when you're hiring, look out for that individual. Make sure that you're hiring based on the person, not just the fact that they have experience, because there's way more people with coffee experience who are not arrogant and unteachable, who need a chance to work in coffee. We can't just be starting from scratch all the time, especially if we want to see more maturity in the barista workforce and more respect given to the profession. we need people to be long-term baristas. And that can't happen if we're always hiring inexperienced people for fear of those that we see having experienced potentially being, prideful and arrogant. But what it really boils down to, again, is figuring out who this person is, how they're going to function in the organization. And when it's the right person for the job, then that experience is no longer a liability. It becomes an asset. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in, and I'll see you here next week on another edition of Shift Break, From Keys to the Shop.